enjoy this. I want to talk about today. Actually, I want to talk about women in the sangha and kind of go through the origin story of the Buddhist nuns. And the reason that this came to mind was I was teaching in person a few weeks ago in Kennewick. And I was teaching at a yoga studio, and we had a beautiful check-in. We had about 15 people that had showed up on a Sunday afternoon to do meditation, and we're following kind of our format here with a check-in and then some meditation and then a little bit of a Dharma talk. And so we had a beautiful check-in, and some of the people shared some pretty incredible stories. And during the meditation, it kind of rose in me. I was going to talk about kind of give an overview of different styles of meditation and things like that. But it kind of arose in me to tell the story of Hui Ning, who is the sixth patriarch of the Zen tradition in China, the Chan tradition in China. And it's a really good story. And I thought that a couple of the people's stories that they had told and things that had come up for them during our check-in kind of fit in with that. So it just kind of spontaneously arose to do this. And as I'm talking about the patriarchs in Zen Buddhism and in Zen it's often listed, Bodhidharma was the first patriarch, and he transmitted his knowledge along to the second patriarch, and then the third, and Hui Ning, who I was telling the story about, is the sixth patriarch. And it kind of dawns on me as I'm explaining this whole thing to people with various backgrounds that I'm sitting in a room with 15 people, and two of us are male, and the other 13 are women. And I am talking about patriarchs and the patriarchy in a lot of ways. And so I kind of stopped and broke that down a little bit, and humbly apologized and still offer that story. But I think women in the sangha have been unfortunately greatly overlooked. I think that's changing. It's changing a lot, and I'm going to ask at some point for us to throw some names of women Buddhist teachers and women in the sangha that have inspired us. So kind of keep those in the back of your mind for a little bit later, because I think that's important to really highlight and talk about. So for those of us who aren't aware, the Buddha. Like we were talking about a little bit, the Buddha sits under the Bodhi tree, becomes enlightened, as the story goes, and finally decides to teach. And after a few years of teaching, the sangha starts to grow. But initially, it's all the monks that join the Buddha are men. And he does teach to some of the lay people. It's usually upper class women a lot of the times, not exclusively, and he's not trying to exclude. I don't think Siddhartha was trying to exclude anybody, but the princesses and the noble women who were sponsoring the sangha, he would teach to them, and some of the merchants' wives and things, the people, he would teach to them. But at that point, no women had ordained in the Buddhist tradition, and so that changes. As the story goes, as told in Old Path, White Clouds, that changes when the Buddha returns home to attend. His father is about to pass away, and he receives notification of that. He gets a message of that, so he travels back home, which is actually in present-day Nepal, where the Buddha lived. So it's most of where the Buddha taught is kind of down in along the Ganges. So it's a couple 100-mile journey back to his original home. And so he goes back and in the stories, some of the stories, he's there at his father's bedside when his father passes away. But after the funeral, and the Buddha helps kind of arrange and kind of gives his blessing for the next ruler to take over in that area, and which is his cousin, I believe it's his cousin. And after the funeral and all that happens, the Buddha's mother, who's actually his stepmother, because the Buddha's biological mother died shortly after he was born. I think in most of the stories, it's 7 days after he was born. So he was raised by Gotami, who was his mother's sister, so his biological aunt, but was raised by her through. That was all he knew of his mother, was Gotami. And so Gotami approaches him after the funeral and after things have kind of settled down and asks to be ordained. And the Buddha initially declines that request, doesn't allow her to join, and kind of says, it's just not time yet. People are not ready. The men of this country, the people who are supporting us, and all the monks, we're not there yet. We're not ready. Is kind of the excuse he gives and what he tells her. And so she kind of says okay, and makes a plan, actually with the Buddha's wife, with Yashodhara, the Buddha's wife, and they kind of make a plan together to convince the Buddha to let them ordain. And so the Buddha leaves a few weeks later. He travels back down toward the Ganges, a few hundred miles away, and he's teaching. And Gotami receives word that where the Buddha is and where he's teaching, and she decides to kind of put this plan into action. And she's joined by, in old Path White Clouds, it says 50 other women, noble women, wealthy women of the of that area join her, and they shave their heads, and they sew rags for robes, and they walk barefoot. And these are wealthy women, women who are married to kings and the rulers, women of nobility and the palace life, and they walk barefoot hundreds of miles down to where the Buddha is teaching to ask again, and this time they're ready. And so they run into, on the road as they're getting close, they run into Ananda, the Buddha's attendant. And Ananda is famous for having the best memory of all the Buddha's disciples, and he's the one who memorizes all of the Buddha's teachings. And then after the Buddha dies, is the one who recites it. So Ananda is a very famous and an important figure that pops up in a lot of these stories. And so they run into Ananda as these 50 women are walking towards where the Buddha is teaching, towards the area where the most of the monks are staying, and Ananda meets with Gotami, and Gotami says, we're here. Ananda mistakes them for monks, from a distance. Their heads are shaved and they're wearing the robes, and they say, no, we're here to talk to the Buddha and to have him ordain us. We want the teachings. We want the full thing. And so Ananda goes back and he asks the Buddha, he says, is it true that women can achieve this, just the same as men? And the Buddha says, of course, the teachings are for everyone and everybody can attain this. And Ananda says, well, then why won't you, allow women to be ordained? And he kind of says, well, it's complicated. There's lots of political and social reasons, and kind of hems and haws. And by the way, I love the way that Old Path White Clouds presents Siddhartha with his teachings. As somebody who's teaching a lot of my time, and I spend a lot of my time with teachers, it's really fascinating to see the mistakes that he makes, that this human being makes over the course of his 40 years. He's not a perfect being. Enlightenment does not mean perfection, and it's a path that we're all on, and you can see through the teachings and through the added precepts for the monks and in this story, that he's not perfect. He's trying to figure all this out too. And, how is this going to work, in the real world? And we have this idea of, it'd be great to, sit peacefully, floating in the air on a cloud, above everything, enlightened, and, light is coming out of our eyes and our mouth and our butts and all that kind of stuff. And, we're above it all. And that's just not the reality of the human condition. We just have so much, so much going on, and trying to get everybody to work together. And sorry for that image. But we have so much going on, and trying to get everybody to work together and get on the same page is oh my gosh, there's so much there. So he eventually decides. Ananda says, "Well, it's funny you say that everybody can be enlightened, because we've got these 50 women who just walked here, and they're ready. And by the way, your mother is one of them." And so the Buddha goes out to greet them, kind of sets them up with a spot, and then he calls together his senior monks, and they have a meeting. And it's decided during that meeting that they can join, but it's decided that in order to pacify everybody, that there needs to be some extra rules and things in place in order to kind of smooth this transition over. So this is in Old Path White Clouds, and I have my Kindle version, so I'm not sure of the exact page. Oh, page 294 of the Kindle version. And so the rules are Shariputra, who you might know his name from the Heart Sutra, is thought of as the Buddha's kind of most wise, most senior disciple through most of his life. And Shariputra kind of proposes these rules. So these are the rules that Shariputra proposes. So he says, first, a nun will always defer to a monk, even if she is older and has practiced longer than he has. Second, all nuns must spend the retreat season at a center within reach of a center of monks in order to receive spiritual support and further study. Third, twice a month, the nuns should delegate someone to invite the monks to decide on a date for the special day of observance. A monk should visit the nuns, teach them, and encourage them in their practice. Fourth, after the rainy season retreat, nuns must attend the Paravana ceremony and present an account of their practice, not only before the other nuns, but before the monks. Fifth, whenever a nun breaks a precept, she must confess before both the nuns and the monks. Sixth, after a period of practice as a novice, a nun will take full vows before the communities of both monks and nuns. Seventh, a nun should not criticize or censure a monk. And eighth, a nun will not give Dharma instruction to a community of monks. And so he reads that, and then in the story, in the chapter, the next line is Moggallana laughs, which is another one of the senior monks, and he says, "These 8 rules are clearly discriminatory. How can you pretend otherwise?" And so they kind of get in this debate, and Shariputra says, basically, yeah, but we got to do something. We can't just bring them in. It will never be accepted, which I'm not 100% sure I buy. But that's what's decided. What's decided ultimately is that the nuns can join if they agree to these rules. And Shariputra later says, and Gautami later says, that they hope that once they join, that these rules will kind of be able to be pushed aside and go away. Of course, if you look now, I believe nuns have, instead of 8 in the rules, nuns have over 100 rules more than the monks do, and so those rules did not go away. There's more. There's more in there. So it's an interesting story, but the Buddha did allow the nuns to join, and we now have in several traditions across Buddhism and in Asia, and then in Western Buddhism we have wonderful teachers who are identify as female, and it's just been a fantastic opening. However, I know that in Asia, still some of these rules in different areas and different communities have, especially that rule where nuns have to be ordinated in front of nuns and monks has kind of been used to keep women from having ordination in different groups. So. This came out of all that. But I definitely wanted to highlight, looking around at this room and the faces on the screen, how many amazing women we have, and how the Dharma can be for all. And I was watching the American Revolution, the PBS, the Ken Burns special, which I'm seeing some nods people have seen, and in one of the episodes, they were talking about the Declaration of Independence, and the line that Jefferson wrote, that all men are created equal, and one of the historians was kind of commenting on that, and maybe some of you guys have seen this, but was kind of commenting on that and saying, that's the genie's out of the bottle there. Once you say all men are created equal, slavery is gone. Women are going to have the right to vote, and it's just a matter of time at that point. And so I think that kind of goes back to what the Buddha was hoping for the Sangha, that eventually, that genie would be out of the bottle, and women would be a part of the Sangha just the same as everybody else. Of course, history has to play out like it does. Our own history, turned bloody, over all people are created equal, and unfortunately continues to be so. And with racial issues and gender issues and things like that. And so we're imperfect, and that's the teaching. And we can work to overcome that. Our attachments, our desires, our ignorance, our greed, our delusion can hinder our progress along the path. But ultimately, the genie's out of the bottle. Everybody is capable of success on this path. And despite the roadblocks that our culture and our views have put up, we're all here, and in my eyes, we're all equal on this path, and we can all continue to work together. Our Tuesday night group, we're going through Dogen's writings, and if you get a chance to join us, would love to have more people join us. But it's been mostly women members of the Sangha that have joined us, and it's just been fantastic. I mean, the insights and discussion and things that we have, and the ability to make connections and work through that has just been awesome. And so I look forward to continuing to work with everybody in the Sangha, and the women in the Sangha. I know we're after time, but would just invite people to type into the chat right now any female teachers, historical, current, that you're aware of, that have had a positive influence for you on Buddhism and Buddhist practice. I started brainstorming several. We've got everything from bodhisattvas like Guan Yin and Tara. We've got Sujita, who is part of our Bodhi Day story. She's the girl who brings Buddha the rice pudding that sustains him, that puts him on his path. We've got Gotami, the Buddha's mother-in-law. Guan Yin, Joe, yes, excellent. And we've got, Dogen was not a woman, but wrote extensively throughout Shobogenzo about women and how they had equal chance to achieve this path. I think of local teachers like Tibetan children. The Dalai Lama always talks about his mother as an example of compassion and metta. Yes, Jiyu Kennett. Yes, Ruth Fuller, Sasaki. Ooh, I'm not familiar with that. Sister Min Bao. Yes, who did our Dharma talk last week. That's great. I need to search up Ruth Fuller, Ty. But I've read several of Jiyu Kennett's books, and we're actually using Shasta Abbey's translation of Shobogenzo, which is Jiyu Kennett's Sangha, and that. Roshi Joan Halifax is phenomenal at Upaya Zen Center. Yep, Pema Chodron, yes. Deepa Ma was another one that came up. Mahakassapa, who's one of the Zen, the first guy to get Zen, and that path was one of the Buddha's disciples, was married before he came to Buddhism, and his wife also joined the Sangha and ordained. So there's so many. So many great women and great examples of that. So just encourage you to keep studying on that, to allow that to kind of sit, and just kind of be aware of some of those biases that come upon us, and in our ignorance, and the way that we look at the world. And we're doing great in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways we've got some ground to make up too. So just appreciate you, grateful for everybody in this sangha, and especially wanted to, on the day of the Buddha's enlightenment, or as we're close to the day of the Buddha's enlightenment, to kind of shout out the hardships of that first group of nuns. Tara Brock, another one. Yes, thank you, Deb. That's a great teacher. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight some of these great teachers that are available, historically and in present day, because there's just so much out there, and so much to offer for everybody along this path. So appreciate you guys, and I've talked for over 10 minutes over where